Books on Tape presents 7 Money Mantras for a Richer Life. How to Live Well with the Money You Have by Michelle Singletary. Read by Lee Adams. 7 Money Mantras is a common-sense guide to personal finance. In practical advice programs, as in life, there are no guarantees, and listeners are cautioned to rely on their own judgments or seek advice from legal or financial professionals about their individual circumstances and act accordingly. In addition, please note that certain information, products, telephone numbers, as well as postal and email addresses will change by the time you hear this program. Introduction. Big Mama's Saving Grace. The best financial planner I've ever known was my grandmother. Big Mama raised me, my 2 sisters, and my 2 brothers on a salary that never reached more than $13,000 a year. Big Mama knew the difference between buying things that improve your net worth and stuff that just makes you look wealthy. "Child, it don't make no sense to pay more money for a pair of jeans just because somebody's name is on it," she would preach. "The only one who's going to get rich is the person whose name is on your behind, and that makes you the ass." Every paycheck, Big Mama would pay herself first. Each week, come hell or high water, she would deposit some money in her credit union before paying any of her bills. She never stopped contributing to her rainy day fund, no matter how tight money got. "The reason you need a rainy day fund," she said, "is because there's always rain. Sometimes it's a drizzling rain, such as when the washing machine breaks and you have to replace it. Sometimes it rains so hard you feel as if you're in the middle of a monsoon, such as when you lose a job." In our case, the storm was my grandfather. Papa, rest his soul, was a drunk. He wasn't an abusive alcoholic. When Papa was sober, he was quiet and gentle. When he drank, he became expressive and funny. But it wasn't funny when he drank up his paycheck. Papa would frequently make stops at his favorite bars on Friday, payday. By the time he stumbled home, his clothes were filthy and smelled of cigarette smoke and urine, and much of his paycheck was gone. There were numerous times when Big Mama would pile me and my brothers and sisters into the station wagon to search for Papa before he got drunk. We would drive around Baltimore for hours. If we found him in time, there would be more money that week to help with the household bills. If we didn't, I would spend the night with a pillow pushed down on my head to drown out Big Mama's yelling when Papa finally came home. Sometimes things got desperate. That's when Big Mama would make one of us crawl on our hands and knees along her bedroom floor to try to slip money out of my grandfather's pants, which he would drop on the floor before passing out. My brothers and sisters and I would argue over whose turn it was to get the money. We would shove one another forward until one of us just gave in and agreed to go into the bedroom. Once, I got stuck under my grandparents' 4-poster bed trying to pull cash out of Papa's pants. Papa had begun tossing and turning up above. I nearly wet my pants. I was ready to bolt, but through the darkness I could see my oldest sister, who was standing in the hallway as a lookout. She held up her hand to warn me to just stay put until my grandfather fell back to sleep. It seemed like hours before he stopped moving around and I could crawl out of the room with the money. Despite Papa's drinking problem, Big Mama managed to make ends meet. But she worried about having enough money all the time. So you see, I understand why, if you grew up not having enough, you want so much now, even if it means going into debt. I understand the urge to give your children what you feel you were deprived of as a child. I know how it feels to want to buy stuff to fill up the sadness and emptiness you feel because of your childhood traumas. Or maybe you were the often talked about quintessential Jones family and thus the trendsetters. Perhaps yours was the family that had a new car every 4 or 5 years, took nice vacations every summer, or bought brand-name clothes and the latest electronic equipment. Maybe yours was the family everyone envied. If so, I'm willing to bet your parents nearly went broke trying to keep up that image. There may have been many arguments about money in your family, even though from the outside it appeared you were doing just fine. And now you are repeating the pattern, trying to keep up the appearance of prosperity at any cost. But I'm here to tell you that living high is costing you too much. You are a sucker if you continue to lead an inflated lifestyle by borrowing other people's money. Most of us are living the American dream on credit. We're stressed because we spend too much. We spend too much because we're stressed. The way my grandmother handled her money taught me that most of us, whatever our situation, can get by on what we make. I know Big Mama's common sense lessons about money can help you spend less and save more. My grandmother believed in the principle that it's not how much you make that matters, but how you make do with what you have. So if you don't have much money, you have to scrimp and save to make sure it stretches far enough. If you're fortunate enough to have some money, you have to scrimp and save to make sure it lasts long enough. In this book, you will find insights from me, my grandmother, and financial experts to help you hold on to your money. And if you're wise and lucky, you'll be able to make it grow. What I bring to this personal finance genre is no-nonsense, common-sense advice about money. I know from being brought up by my grandmother that if you want to achieve financial security, you have to develop a certain attitude. You have to stop whining about not having enough money and do better with what you have. Truth be told, everything I ever needed to know about money, I learned from Big Mama, who never invested a dime in a certificate of deposit, bond, or stock. And yet by using simple wisdom, she was able to save enough to provide financial security for herself. Big Mama was by no means rich, but she made enough and saved enough to pay her basic bills. She had enough to indulge her one passion, buying fancy church hats. She was fine financially because she didn't want much. Today, folks are taking all kinds of risks with their money because they are scared to death of not having enough. However, if you manage what you have better, even if you never make a dime in the stock market, you can get by, even in retirement. Big Mama lived well in retirement because she had no credit card debt. She bought reasonably priced cars, which she paid off early. Most important, she paid off her home before she retired. To start, I've broken my book down into 2 parts. In the first section, I'll introduce you to a list of common-sense money mantras. A mantra is a chant, phrase, or prayer that you repeat to yourself. The following mantras are ingrained in my psyche. I repeat them often. I use them to put a stop to my spending or to inspire me to save more. I always fall back on them when I'm not sure what financial decision to make. Here they are. Mantra number 1. If it's on your ass, it's not an asset. Mantra number 2. Is this a need or is it a want? Mantra number 3. Sweat the small stuff. Mantra number 4. Cash is better than credit. Mantra number 5. Keep it simple. Mantra number 6. Priorities lead to prosperity. Mantra number 7. Enough is enough. Each of these mantras will help set you straight on the path to financial security. I start with, if it's on your ass, it's not an asset, because many people spend too much of their money acquiring things that don't appreciate in value. We are a nation that loves to look good, but at what expense? Think about the money you waste on clothes, cars, and the latest electronic toys. In the end, that kind of spending will not help you reach the goals you say you want. A college education for your children, a down payment on a home, a nice retirement nest egg. The second mantra, is this a need or is it a want, is in the form of a question for a reason. If you want to use your income wisely to put yourself on the road to wealth, you have to question every purchase you make. When you begin to distinguish between things you need and stuff you want, you'll find you can quit using credit to inflate your lifestyle. You can begin to tune out the advertising that makes you think you need certain things. Once you become good at questioning every purchase, the next step is to pay attention to every penny you spend to acquire the things you need. Once you become economical with your cash, you will begin to rethink how you use credit. Using cash will free you from your plastic bondage. Big Mama inspired the Keep It Simple mantra. I think we underestimate the wisdom of folks who like to keep things simple. If more of us relied on this common sense rule, we might not be conned into buying stuff
Sample complete. Ready to continue?